Hello and welcome to another excelattheoffice.com video. Here I'm going to show you how to start from scratch and create a really nice document. Now I've had a few people contact me asking how they can just generally create some of the documents like the templates I've provided for themselves, because when you start from a blank sheet of paper it can be quite bemusing. Writer's block can set in, and there's a lot of settings to fix first before you get into the flow of your creative mindset. And then with this great document, you too can excel at the office, as I outline here. So here's I've started off here with a broad heading for my document, and this is going to be a subheading. When you open Excel, when you open Word, you might notice that your Microsoft creates annoying settings. So for example, it has the inaccessible 11 size font and the horrible Calibri text, and for some reason it wants to add spaces after every paragraph, and I prefer to manage my own spaces. And also I want to make the most of the page margins, which I explain in another video. So the first thing we're going to do is Control A to select everything, to fix things. So first of all, I'm going to have everything as a minimum of 12 font, and I hate Calibri, so I'm going to use Arial as a standard, much more legible. The text is bigger, it doesn't look like it's been written on a futuristic typewriter. Then what I'm going to do is adjust these page margins. So I'm going to move it a few to the left, a few to the right, just marginally, if you excuse the pun. And then at the top and bottom I'm going to move it a few up and a few down as well, just a half a centimetre or so. What that does, it's a sneaky way of getting more into a document on fewer pages as well. So if you've got like a 20-page document, that will reduce it by a page or two, but this will reduce it by a great amount. So we've done the font, we've sorted the font up here, we've sorted the page margins here and here, which I show you more in a video on how to sort when your table goes awry, like with unique page margins. And also next what we're going to do is get rid of these line spacing. So under the line spacing is under the paragraph section of the home ribbon. So, and it's line and paragraph spacing as it's previewed here. So if I click that, what I've got here is I'm going to remove the space after the paragraph that Microsoft Word has thought it helpful to include for a start. So that's good. Now I can manually adjust my paragraph spaces. But also if I select all again, I want to have things single spaced, because for some reason, as a default, Microsoft uses multiple line spacing at 1.08, and actually I just want single line spacing. So I'm going to click OK. So that's my line spacing sorted out. Now I'm ready to actually create this document. So for the main heading, it's good to kind of oversize that to make it clear and obvious what your heading is. So I'm going to whack that up to about 48 point, mark in bold, and let's go for a nice deep red color. And then the subheadline, the tagline if you like, I'm going to select that. Not be quite as big but still quite prominent in bold, and I'm going to go for a sleek grey. Next I might just give a bit of a description of why I'm writing this document. And you can just type that out. If you want to embed an image as part of your branding, you can do so. I've already copied one from earlier, so I'm just going to paste it here. So I'm going to have that actually above my text. Now when you're pasting images, so there we go, I've got my tagline, I've got my header, and I've got my image. And actually for this bit, before I get to my first heading, I'm going to select this and my image and put it centrally, because I quite like having my titles and things central. Now when you insert a picture and you select it, you get this picture format option. Sometimes it can be a bit of a pain aligning things, but if you want to move it around, sometimes it gets a bit all over the place and a bit tricky to work with. So what I tend to do, I like being able to move it and drag it to within the text, and the setting to choose for that is under picture format. You want to choose your position first in the arrange part of the picture format ribbon. So my position, and I want it not with text wrapping, none of these options in terms of precisely locating it. I want it in line with text. So when I type my text, that too moves down. Whereas if I do with text wrapping, it kind of keeps it there, or doesn't. It's not so precise to where I want it. And then under the arrange section, the wrap text. So I've got it in line with my text, and the text I want. Yeah, so that's the right one. Or you can choose top and bottom, which is a similar setting. So in line with text is generally a good thing, and that will move things accordingly. So for my first heading, might be an executive summary. And it's always good to have an executive summary, especially for longer documents. Like if something's going to be over 5-10 pages long, you need an executive summary. And what you don't put in the executive summary is anything different from what's in the rest of the report. All you're doing is summarizing each heading section in a sentence or two. So the idea being an executive, i.e. a really senior person, or someone who hasn't got the time to read the whole report, or someone who just wants to figure out what's going on and get the broad gist of things, as is the average impatient person in today's technology-fueled world. They want to get the gist of it in 30 seconds rather than have to spend half an hour reading the whole report. And if you do that, the benefit to you is obviously people are more likely to read it because they're not overwhelmed with a load of text. They can jump to the bit that is most interesting. So for my executive summary, what you might want to do, or for your headings, you can manually arrange your headings so that, let's say, about 24 is a good size heading, really kind of naturally somewhat oversized. I'm going to keep the red theme consistent, and that looks nice. And then I can get to my the exec summary. And this is quite a handy thing actually that Microsoft does now, where you start typing and it presents what it thinks you might say. So let's carry on a moment. There we go. Here's the executive summary for this, and Word thinks I'm going to say report. If you want that, what it's kind of highlighting in grey there, you just press Tab and it does it, so it types it out for you. So this is a way that you can type a lot quicker. So that's our first heading. But what you might want, if you want a table of contents, that's not going to work just like that, because that's just normally formatted text. All we've done is make it bigger, change the color of it. What we haven't done is allocated it a particular style, which is in this section of the home ribbon. Unfortunately, the heading 1 style is formatted differently So we have to manually change that again, but once we're done and we've added those styles of heading 1 or subheading, which is heading 2, then when you create a table of contents, your Word document will recognize where the heading 1s and 2s are. But what it won't do is recognize anything normal. So if I go back now and change that back to Arial, bring it back to the margins of the rest of it to keep it in line. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to sort the line spacing out to remove the space before it. I'm going to set the line spacing at 1. I'm just going to check the line spacing options. Yep, that's all okay. And I'm going to make the text bigger again and red. Now, sorry, I had to pause there, just someone at the door. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. I'm going to Control C to copy it, or right click, select it, right click and copy. Control C is your quick shortcut. And I'm going to paste that whenever I want another title elsewhere, because I've formatted my unique title. I can't be bothered to set up creating a style, but you can save that style if you want to save time later for this particular document. So now all I need to do for my subsequent headings is select it and choose my next heading, which when you start out a report, what I'm going to do is tell you to turn your traditional academic speak and report writing, research writing on its head, because it bores the pants off of everybody. Remember, we live in an age where most people are impatient and want to get to the point quickly, so they don't want to be reading all the blather in your background, introduction. Nobody really even cares about your methods unless you unless it's a key part of the report, but not at this point anyway. What people want to know straight off the bat is, what is the point? So start off, rather than leaving it at the end, start with it. And as you can see, as I'm typing there, it's coming up grey because it's suggesting what I might want to type, so I press Tab to save time. So you've already said why you're writing this report. Your executive summary gives an overview, and I would recommend bullet points are your friend here. So when you're writing out an executive summary, I would use bullet points. Generally the default works quite well, but if you need to adjust them, you can work that out in a paragraph. And you can adjust the indentation options here, so play around with that. Generally hanging is the best, where you can move your bullet points in a bit. The 0.63 is the very precise default that Microsoft Word gives you. And what I would recommend is subtitle each bullet point. So you might have key findings and conclusions. And what you would type in here, where I've put the X's after I formatted it the same as the title, is an abridged summary, maybe 1 or 2 sentences about your findings. Do you see where I'm heading up with that? So really the reader, that might cover 1 or 2 lines, or maybe even a paragraph, and then you can go to your next section. And again, if anyone's familiar with the communication style of Simon Sinek, why, how, what, starting with the why is important. I quite like that. So other than your overall findings and conclusions, you might want to put your purpose, expand a bit more on the purpose of your research, your report, your project. So I'll leave that to you to decide, but the purpose is a good thing to put here. And again, you'll put purpose in here to reflect it, and then an executive summary which states the purpose in a very abridged version. And this is a particular skill, and if you have a very lengthy 20 to 50 to 100 page report and you need it summarized, I certainly offer that service if you're needing someone to extract the key points, because frankly nobody is going to read a 100-page report no matter how nicely you present it, whether that's an annual report, environmental sustainability report, some kind of diversity strategy, a well-being findings or survey results. Whatever your report, if it's dozens of pages long and you're not sure how to abridge things and say them more succinctly, then that's a service I can provide at Excel at the Office. But you see where I'm going with this executive summary, because the reader on the first page, on the title page, your executive summary should take up no more than about half a page or so. Yeah. So next we'll have, so we've done the key findings and conclusions. We've revisited the purpose, so sometimes people call that a bit of an introduction, but they fill the introduction with a load of boring stuff too. Just to show, for example, if it's academic research, it's just to show that they've read the other research material relating to it. So actually, let's go straight into the results. So this is where you'll put your graphs, charts, or other kind of qualitative results that informed, using those results, the conclusions you made and the key findings you found based on those results. Because that's the next thing that people would be interested to say, okay, you concluded that some kind of powerful or controversial thing that you might say, oh, well, the colour red is hands down far better than the colour blue. And people might go, well, how did you come to that conclusion? Well, your results might indicate that in your survey, for example, X% of people found the colour red when asked in their survey, and I've got a surveying guide in my blog at excelattheoffice.com if you're interested. How to structure your questions and things. You might have asked them a particular question about their favourite colours and rating them or something like that. So in there you'll create your graphs and charts and results and share some of those. Again, not giving people loads of tables and tables of data that they couldn't possibly comprehend, but giving them a nice, intuitive, visual summary of results. Maybe your dashboard. So again, if you want a hand creating that from all your data and you're not sure where to start, then obviously that's another service I can provide for you. And you can then share, following the logic of turning an academic report upside down in its order, we might then share some of the methods. So how you glean those results. So for example, if it's a survey, you might describe how we surveyed 500 people according to these parameters. Here's the question set, and so on and so forth. And then finally, you might have something that describes a bit of background information as to what prompted this report or research, what their controversial issues were that needed resolving, or the problems that were outlined, or if it's a project, for example, what prompted the business to need to instigate the project. So you might put the background information here just to set that context. But again, you see how I'm putting these things in what might be the academics might think this is a terrible order to put things, but they're all thinking in a pretty academic way, and few people other than other academics read their reports anyway, because they're not in this upside down order that has more impact with people. So all the kind of boring stuff, save for the back, and the really boring stuff. So if you want to expand on your methods, and as I mentioned a minute ago, let's say, here's my survey question set. Rather than busy the main body of the report with it, I would instead relegate those to the appendices. So for example, the question set of a survey would be certainly appendix worthy information, as is any other kind of technical data, detailed methodologies, or even in the background information, you could relegate that to some of the appendices. So for example, a précis of the controversial issue, or that you're trying to that you're exploring further. So that's a bit of an overview how to make a report slightly more appealing using Microsoft Word. And the last thing I'll show you here is if you want to insert a table. So for example, so tables are really good for making information a bit more readable. So for example, with the key findings and conclusions, you might want to tabulate those instead of bullet point them. But it just makes the eye, it's just a bit more appealing to the eye. So for example, let's insert our table. It's aligned with my text here, but unfortunately it's not aligned where I want it to the right. So I'm going to select the whole table, align it more to the right. And because I've created unique margins on my page here and here, as I show you in another video, that messes up, for whatever reason, table margins. So now my text in my table, if I were to start typing, it goes off to the side there. It doesn't stop because here is where it ends for this particular cell. So you need to go through and manually select each column, bring that margin across to bring it back in the cell. Select that column, bring it across. I know this is a bit of a longer video than I normally do, but hopefully you're finding it helpful. And then finally the last column, bring that across because I want the margin to finish within the cell. So you can use a preset format for your table when you select it all and go to table design, so you get that option now. So you can choose from a myriad of table styles. So let's, for example, just choose, we don't want a blue one because we've learned red is better than blue. So let's go to a nearer red one, shall we? And that's messed things up a bit. So I'm just going to undo that a minute. We pause there. So I've got the window on a very precise point and my recording is covering up the undo button. But I thought it's best not to do that for now because I'll have to go through and undo all the manual, the auto formatting that Word has done. So let's manually format it instead. So for example, I can format the heading row, give it a shading of red. It didn't have my colors that I wanted anyway. I'm going to choose bold because this is going to be my title, and I'm going to center the text as well. So for my title I might have a theme, for example, of the finding, and that's going to be short, so I don't need that long, that wide. I'm going to have the finding here. So the theme, for example, might be color preference, using the example I used before. The finding is people like red more than the color blue, as a more expansive or describing the key finding, for example, one of the key findings, and then the kind of implication. So what, for example, Or actually the implication might be we need to change our logo design to incorporate the color red, because lots of people prefer that and they might like our logo better. I don't know. Whatever you conclude from your key findings as to what the point of it is, you might display that in a table. So tables, I remember when I was doing a marketing diploma, the very clever tutor pointed out that anything we put in our essays in tables didn't count towards the word count. And that rule existed because people don't mind reading text when it's in a table, because it just feels more visual. It feels like you're dealing with pictures, not words. Whereas when it's in text, particularly in paragraphs, it's less pleasing on the eye to read. Bullet points are a bit better though. And one thing you can do with your bullet points to make things stand out a bit better, as a default, you'll get bullet points come up with a single line space, but you can manually adjust that by just simply pressing enter between your bullet points and backspace to delete the space created, and this creates a bit of space. Oh, that's created two, so I'm just going to go up one. I think it's kind of recognizing that I wanted to create a space between, so I don't need to do the between bullet points bit anymore. There we go. So Word is clever in some ways in trying to predict what you want, but in other ways it's pretty dumb. But in any case, I think that's quite nice and easy to read. So I've covered here quite a lot. So oversize your title, give it a subheader or a tagline to your title. If you want to include an image, use the picture format to put it in line with the text so it moves with text. Maybe give a little paragraph as to what this report entails. Or you can just skip straight to your executive summary, which for long reports covers the rest of the report, and that's a particular set of skills to be able to succinctly summarize what can be pages and pages of information to extract the key points. I've given unique headings, so when I create and insert a table of contents, which I won't do in this video, but if you do want to try that out, you just select, let's do it now, sorry. Let's go to insert, and under under references, you're going to use a table of contents. Yeah, so that's why it often confuses people. I want to insert a table of contents. I can insert everything else, but it's not here. That's because it's under references, funnily enough. So under table of contents button, you can choose an automatic table like this. And there we go. Now my contents are updated, and you can manually go ahead and change the format of that should you wish. But now, in particularly long reports, this is how you get with those pieces of text that are on the home set as a heading. It's recognized those, and if you have any subheadings, it would pose those here as well. And now I can control and click to go to the section rather than have to scroll endlessly. So that's my headings. The text I've sorted so it's just single spacing, but bullet points, it's quite useful to manually add a space in between. I've shown you how to insert a table and to chunk information better using tables. That's more preferable to just writing it all out. It's a bit more visual and pleasant. And also I've shown you how to fix the table for when you adjust the overall document margins, that messes up the table, so we've adjusted those as well. And also how I've shown you how to turn the structure of a document upside down so that it's more impactful and people will actually read it. But yeah, hopefully you found those kind of tips helpful. That sets you on your way to creating a great document or a more impactful document, or if you're a little bit more humble, maybe something that you just want people to read and you haven't wasted all your time all day writing. So On that bombshell, I will bid you adieu. Thanks for your time listening and watching this longer video. If you want to support my work, I'd happily, you can do that by buying me a coffee at my website to help cover my website fees, for example. That would be very much appreciated. But of course, let me know if this is hitting the mark by commenting in the video down below. And until the next video, take care.